Stanley Demeyere, age 88, and I was drafted in July of 1953, and left Warren with two people that I knew, Lloyd Larson from Argyle and Wally Bolduck from Stephen. And we were at Fort Riley, Kansas, and for kind of a shifting. And then Bolduck and I went to Aberdeen, Maryland, and I don't know where Larson went. Larson happened to be a half-brother to Lyndon Johnson, and so got to know him that way. We took our basic training in Aberdeen Proving Grounds. We were probably the last company to do that, because they cut off basic training there, and graduated there in October from basic training, and went from there to Atlanta, Georgia for automotive training. And I think I got home just before Christmas, as I remember.
So it was a good time to be in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was, but it was cold. Air humidity is high, and some of the coldest days I spent.
Sure.
You know, except when I was up in Canada, in the Arctic. So graduated from there, went back to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and some of my buddies went to work in a motor pool right away, and so I went down.
Going back to Atlanta,
Aberdeen Proving Grounds.
Stanley, how long were you there? How long were you in AIT? Auto training.
I was in my whole career. I was in automotive.
But how long were you in Atlanta, Georgia?
Oh, about 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
About 2.5 months.
Okay.
And it was a 16-week, I think. Do you believe? No, I'm not. I can't remember. Anyway, and I came out on the top of the class in Atlanta. My buddy from southern Minnesota and I were neck and neck the whole time, but in the last run, I beat him out by 1 point. So, and as I say, went back to Aberdeen Proving Ground and went down to personnel to get assigned, and there was a sign on the wall where they needed some help, and needed some men in Yuma, Arizona, and Fort Churchill, Canada. So I said, well, I'd like to go to Canada. Okay, he said, we'll get you there. But I had to have complete security clearance before I left. So and I found out afterwards why the FBI was in El Dorado interviewing my old employers and checking me out. So it took me three months to get clearance.
3 months?
Yeah. And I went up to Winnipeg and got on a train on a Friday, and 2.5 days later I was in Fort Churchill. My first furlough, or took 2.5 hours to fly back. So,
yeah.
And I spent back back to Aberdeen. One time I was on company duty, and you could get all kinds of things, but I was picked to be a guard for a court martial, and so I sat in on that with a carbine with two shells in it, 2 live rounds in it, and I marked that guy when he was convicted because he didn't have a leg to stand on. He went AWOL, and I walked him to the stockade.
How long to get,
I can't remember. I just don't. That's 65, somewhere better, 70 years ago, or something like that. I can't remember those things. But we never saw any more of him. So.
Okay. So I know you worked on the Alaska
Pardon?
road. You worked on the Alaska road, right?
No.
Oh, I thought you worked on that.
No. I was up in Fort Churchill, and we were in the development and proof service out of Aberdeen. And during the off season, there was only about 11 or 12 of us in the company, but we were supported by a complete company of motor pool and engineers and other things.
Okay.
Because the test season would start in October, and then there would be like couple thousand people on camp, testing all kinds of things. Everything from seat cushions to a 280 millimeter cannon.
So when you were there, what'd you do for fun?
Well, not a whole lot. There wasn't many women, probably 8 or 10, maybe not even that many, that we got to know. And most of those were Canadian officers' daughters, so you didn't want to mess around there too much.
Right. So the whole time,
Movies and the corporal's lounge. That's about what it was.
yeah, yeah. So the whole time you were there, you're mostly an auto mechanic or worked on equipment?
Yeah. And I was under a master sergeant by the name of James Nearguard. Nice old guy. Anyway, in the summertime, we would do some testing of our own. And he had like a lawn tractor built on tracks, and we'd go out into the muskeg. Now, I don't know if you know what muskeg is, but it's like soup. And then you'd go down about 18 inches, and it was permafrost. That never did thaw out. And we'd pull sleds and drive in there till that thing stopped. We'd yank it out and load it up, and it was my job to get it running again.
So being you were in the military and you worked as an auto mechanic, this kind of led into your history of what you did for a living, right?
Well, pretty much. My father was a mechanic, or tinker, a farmer, but he could fix almost anything, and my two brothers and I picked that up from him.
And you worked for Demeyere Implement?
I started in Argyle before I went in the service, setting up machinery, and I was 19 at that time. Then I came back and from the service in 1955. I helped my dad with a herd of cattle that winter because my one younger brother enlisted in the Army, and so he was gone, and my next middle brother went out to California for the winter to work. So then, my dad passed away in April of 1956. So then my brother and I took over the farm and farmed with him for about 10 years, and it just wasn't enough there, so I left and came into the shop full time in Argyle here.
And a good mechanic you were, I remember.
Well, I tried to do the best I could.
Yep.
And your reputation kind of followed you.
Pardon?
Your reputation sort of follows you.
Yep, right. And you've had a good one.
Thank you.
So when you went in with the one guy from Argyle, the one from Stephen, did you see him after basic training?
Bulldog was in the same company.
You stayed together?
Yep.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. But
Yeah.
but after Aberdeen, after basic training, then we separated. He went some other place.
Okay. And while you were in there, did you meet any other people that you knew from around this area?
No, not really.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Stanley, we appreciate you doing this. I know I've known you for years now, and like you said, your reputation precedes you. You're very honorable man.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Stanley.